Well, thank you for that introduction. Yes, I'm Alan Leibowitz. I'm the editor of Forklift Action News, in case you're not aware of it. Forklift Action News is probably the only global newsletter dedicated to forklifts and material handling, produced right here in Australia and read around the world. Actually, we have more readers outside of Australia than in. The beauty of that is that we're really in touch with trends across the industry around the globe. And in this interconnected world, Australia is so much a part of what's happening globally that we're able to translate what we're seeing in other markets and bring it into Australia. But you're not here to listen to me talk about myself. You're here to hear about a subject which no doubt is as close to your hearts as it is to all of ours. And that is the future of materials handling and how contemporary technology is impacting on everyday operations, probably in your workplaces and certainly in most of ours. Joining me to unpick the detail and find the gems of information in this topic are, as we go along the panel, Philip Graham from CombiLift, Jason Mayer from SICK, Paz Tomasiello from Dematic, and Rob Whitmore from Cascade. So we have a collection of hardware, software and systems, I think covering pretty much most of the bases of what we're going to be looking at. Now, firstly, I look out here and I see a row of empty seats in first class and business class. So those of you who are in economy, courtesy of CeMAT, a free upgrade to the front of the room, which makes it a lot more intimate and makes the barriers feel less intimidating. So if you'd like to move forward, we'll allow you to do that. Not all at once. Let's keep some order. Come on, folks. This is really going to be hard work if there's this huge physical barrier. The other thing I would like to stress is that while we're here talking among ourselves, this is really for your benefit. I've heard that over the past 2 days, the success rate in getting questions from the floor has been pretty low. I'm sure this session is going to turn that trend around. Please remember that if there's something that you want to ask, it's obviously important to you, it's probably important to somebody else, and these guys are just champing at the bit wanting to talk about anything and everything. And we know that from previous sessions, as soon as the microphones are put down, people come forward and start asking questions one-on-one. So how about sharing and doing all of that in public, but not until we've had a chance to introduce the panel, hear what they've got to say. So any questions at any time, just put your hands up. I won't embarrass you by naming you or asking you what you do, just ask a question. So after that elaborate introduction, we're just about out of time. Thank you for being with us this morning and come back next year. No, seriously. Obviously, we're all seeing trends and developments, and I'm going to start by asking each of the panelists, probably starting with Rob, about what are the biggest trends that you're seeing at the moment and how they're changing the shape of what you do.
Thank you, Alan, and good morning. I guess for me, I'm 30 years' experience in the materials handling business around forklifts and particularly lift truck attachments. When I started in the business, it was very much about just clamping loads, trying to introduce palletless handling. But today, Cascade has had to look at how we design attachments to help lift trucks be energy efficient. We're seeing a lot more battery electric product come into the market, as well as the more traditional gas and fuel-driven lift trucks. So we're looking at how we can be more energy efficient with our hydraulics, with our bearing materials, as well as some of the more technical aspects of what customers want, weighing forks, cameras, etc., etc. We're spending a lot of time on damage reduction strategies, safety-related products. They're the main changes that we're seeing.
Okay. Well, when we talk about change, Paz, I guess your company probably wouldn't even have been on the agenda 10, 15 years ago, and the future is very much at hand with Dematic. Can you tell us what are the trends and technologies that you're interfacing with?
Thanks, Alan. Is that working? Okay, thanks. Yeah, I've been with Dematic for 18 years, and my business exists because the trends towards automation is growing ever stronger and exponentially. So if we look at what's happening in the world, when I joined Dematic 18 years ago, about 80% of the business was zone routing, picking systems overlaid with some type of picking technology such as RF or voice. And that technology represented about 20-30% productivity improvements. Today, 80% of our business is fully automated goods-to-person picking systems that represent upwards of 600-700% improvement in productivities by automating, roboticizing, overlaying greater levels of technology in distribution centres. So there's been an incredible shift in my history with Dematic towards higher and higher levels of automation and implementations of technology. And that's driven by labour, the ageing workforce, footprint, efficiency, e-commerce, service levels, etc., some of which I'll probably expand on through the course of today.
Okay, thanks for that introduction. Jason, SICK is also very much a technology company, so what are the trends that you're seeing and how do they impact on your offerings?
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Good morning. Jason from SICK Proprietary Limited. We're seeing a couple of changes. I think Philip touched on safety. So having spent the last 25 years in automation, what we're seeing with the introduction of digitalisation and Industry 4 is the need for collaboration between our people, our workers, and AGVs, forklifts, any movement of heavy machinery and materials and handling. There is that interaction, but the big trend at the moment is big data. So we talk about Industry 4 and the ability to collect data to be able to improve your efficiencies while also maintaining safety is a big trend, and we see that as a sensor company as a huge opportunity for us to be able to pick up those gaps in the supply chain, collect that data, analyse it, turn it into insight, and be able to make some good business decisions on improving our operations.
Okay, so that's the advent of Industry 4.0, which I'm sure we'll be speaking about because that is impacting on so many aspects of the business. Philip, let's get back to the pedal and the metal, I guess, the forklift market. What are the trends that you're seeing and how are those shaping the forklift market?
Good morning, everyone, and thanks, Alan. A lot of the trends that we are seeing from the combi lift point of view is that, and the guys here have all touched on it, is efficiency and safety. The combi lift forklifts are specialised products that it's all about safer handling of products within the minimum amount of space. So the biggest trends that we see day on day is that our customers are coming to us for a better solution for warehouse layout and warehouse design. They're coming to us looking for a complete solution as from the number of forklifts that they can put into an operation and making the best use of available space with our products.
So one of the things that we are seeing increasingly is the rising cost of real estate, which means that racks have to go higher and aisles have to get narrower. How is that impacting on the offerings in the forklift market?
Yeah, certainly within Australia, real estate is getting more and more expensive, and every customer now is looking to get better value for money. And you're right, Alan. The higher up you go, that's probably the easiest way to gain space and storage. And with the products that we offer, we have mass available for lift heights up to 15 metres and work within an ROI system.
Right. And that, I gather, is less than the maximum that you're offering in Europe?
No, Europe would definitely be setting the trends. It was one thing I noted when I moved to Australia 4 years ago with combi lift is that warehousing predominantly was wide aisles and racking heights of about 6 metres, whereas 4 or 5 years ago Europe was at 10, 11 metres, and now they're pushing up further, even up to that 15 metre mark.
Okay, thanks for that. Jason, we touched on Industry 4.0, and this is obviously a data world. What kind of data are you seeing people actually looking for in warehouses and materials handling, and how are you able to interpret that? Because there's a huge amount of information out there. How are you able to turn all of that data into management intelligence?
Sure, thank you, Alan. So what we're seeing is there's a technology that's been around for many years, RFID. It's a technology that enables you to obviously send information to an individual tag that's unique for the particular pallet you're working with. And where we're able to turn that into a benefit to our customers is to be able to streamline something that causes a lot of grief in warehousing, and that is stock take. So we can utilise the RFID technology. We can introduce even with an AGV, with some readers, and we can basically take that information and rather than doing it manually through individuals, we can send that information once we've tracked it directly to the ERP, and we can cross-check that stock take and really streamline that, and not only improve the speed of the stock take but also the quality of the stock take. Because many times we see in the industry that when you're doing it manually, obviously you're going to have an opportunity for error. And by tracking it using RFID and digitalising it, you remove that obstacle.
Okay. Paz, a few weeks ago I was in Germany at a demo site of Dematic's, which is just unbelievable. I mean, it's real 21st century stuff where all of this warehouse activity happens without any human intervention, and crates are moving around and pallets are being unpacked and orders are being done completely autonomously. How much of that technology is being adopted in this market, and what are the barriers to adoption?
Thanks for the plug, by the way, Alan. Yeah, it's an exciting part of our industry to start to consider higher and higher levels of automation. I often refer to as lights out automation. And I mentioned in my introduction the drivers for that being, Australia, labour shortage, the ability not only to find but to retain good labour, and then overlaid on that is service level requirements coming out of e-commerce, etc. So the requirement to introduce automation technology, robotics, and go to a fully automated warehouse is there now. You asked about the impediments to that. These fully automated systems come with higher levels of capital expenditure, and therefore a lot of work needs to be done on looking at the business case, looking at the return on investment, and factors in the return on investment, not just direct savings, but the intangible savings and the benefits to your business, and most importantly, to your customers. What can an automated system do in terms of improving accuracy, in terms of improving service levels? Around the world, we're seeing online companies deliver in 2 to 3 hours. What that translates to in terms of the challenges to a distribution centre is extremely challenging. Get an order and pick it within 30 minutes and get it out the door in that time frame. You can't do that with humans. You often can't even throw enough humans at the task to deal with that. You've got to have automated systems and really intelligent software to pick that order in 30 minutes and have it on a truck in that time frame so that it can get to your customer a couple of hours later.
Okay, let's just check if we're preaching to the converted here. Just by show of hands, can we see who has any levels of automation in their operations at the moment? Anybody with any? Okay, is there anyone in the room who has total automation? Total automation? Yes? Great. Okay, we'll get a mic to you and hear about that in a minute. But before we do, Rob, the cynics in the room might think that forklift attachments are the dumbest end of the supply chain, just mechanical things that help you move pallets around. But I guess there's a lot more to it as Industry 4.0 and telematics and data and connectivity come into play. So can you tell us about how technology is impacting on the dumb end of the market?
Well, I guess
in inverted commas.
One of the big changes has been the advent of 3PLs, and having to move a lot of product very quickly has meant rather than handle one pallet at a time, people want to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4 pallets at a time, do it safely, protect their people. So we see the use of single, double pallet handlers, good hydraulics, but you've got to conserve the energy in the forklift. Philip was talking about the movement to tall masts. So 8.5 and 9 metre electric lift trucks are now commonplace in warehousing where they weren't 30 years ago. The market used to be dominated by just internal combustion lift trucks. We're seeing retail grocery chains now having to make up multi-layered pallets of product rather than a pallet of one style of product, and have to pick individual layers. Now, when that's done by people, the product's handled a lot. It affects the product presentation. So we came up with a layer picker that typically gives a return on investment of around 7 to 12 months. There's a lot of people buying a lot of company motor cars that don't get any return on that investment. We're pretty pleased with the fact that the product that we're putting on the front of forklifts gives a very fast ROI. And with that, as I said, we now look to manage with technical solutions how much clamp force is put on things like white goods, very delicate products. The milk that we consume these days is all generally clamp handled before it hits the retail stores. So, you know, from a good old-fashioned engineering point of view, that's where we're tending to have to apply the technology.
Okay, before we move on, are there any questions from the floor? Not all at once, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My question is about the forklift attachment. As you said, you know, people have the feeling that it's the dumbest device possible, especially when it comes to the tine. And we do have a revolutionary idea of, you know, I call it the smart tine, or the tine with the camera in the front, which is a very great move from Cascade. So I was wondering what would be Cascade's plan for introducing that product into the market in mass scales and numbers in coming years or so? Is it something which you do have it, you know, something we can expect it in a year or within a couple of months from now? Or is it something which is just introduction of capacity of Cascade in introducing that kind of product to market? Thank you.
Well, it is a brand new introduction. And it's come about through the necessity of these high lift reach trucks. If an operator is trying to introduce forks to a pallet 8.5 metres above the ground, that's very difficult. There's been all manner of bolt-on type cameras that bolt onto forks, but they're all subject to damage. So again, it just highlights the fact that we've recognised the need. We've released that product here in the last couple of days. It was released in the US market only a couple of months ago. And like all of our products, that'll be available through forklift dealerships and OEMs going forward. So come and have a look at it. I think you've had a look at it. But it's certainly a change away from how it's been done in the past. So we're expecting big things from it, and it will be a stock available product. And I would imagine it'll have the ability to be what we call AED, which is designed specifically to suit other applications. In the case of combi lift where there's long drop forks and what have you, it'll be built to suit those as well.
Philip, did you want to talk about some of the smart applications that are being used on the tines of forklifts that you're offering? So what are you doing in-house and what are your customers doing to smarten the forks?
I suppose from our point of view, like, if we're looking for real good technology, we'd be turning to the likes of Rob. But in-house within combi lift, you know, it's generally just fork positioning and maybe wide fork spreads and spreader bars that are designed specifically for the combi lift product. So that's an in-house, that's designed in-house within combi lift. But for, you know, when I seen the camera within the forks on the Cascade stand, I know it's something that we would be definitely interested in looking at from a technology point of view, because Rob has said it. Cameras are traditionally mounted on a fork carriage or on the mast, and they're always subject to damage, whereas now Cascade have actually taken that element away. So Yeah.
From a user's perspective, I guess there must be a lot of value in being able to see exactly where the forks are when you're 12 meters off the ground lifting a pallet that's worth, 20 grand's worth of goods on it. So what's the current kind of state of play in technology?
Currently, it is traditionally cameras, laser levels or laser pointers or lift height pre-selects. Traditionally, I've always believed in keeping it simple, and I always thought a camera system is one of the better ways to, if you're lifting at say 9-10 meters, it's a better system to use than a lift height pre-select on some equipment, because although the lift height pre-select, it can be programmed for each level, it obviously needs to be calibrated, and some people don't realise that when the tyres of the forklift wear, that you got to recalibrate that select. Whereas, if anyone has sat a forklift driver's license ticket here, they always tell you to keep your eye on the load. So with a camera system, like Rob and Cascade have developed, the forklift operator should be looking at his load and using the camera as a visual cue, not just relying on that lift height select.
Right. Jason, you guys produce sensors and systems. So what are you doing in the area of improving safety of what's happening at the end of the forks?
Yeah, sure. It's a difficult one, but what we talk about is with regards to safety sensors on forklifts or AGVs is the segregation of people from the area. So we talk about lights out. So one of the big things is speed, and with the narrow aisles, etc., that needs to be considered. So if we have people within the vicinity of the warehouse, we have to limit that speed. And as long as we don't have people close to where these AGVs or forklifts are operating, we can then introduce measures to speed up. We also have a sensor available. It's a turnkey solution. It's an add-on to existing forklifts, or it can be incorporated into AGVs as well, and that's a notification system. So for a manually driven forklift, we can have sensors that'll alert the driver that they're going to collide with something. So we're able to offer that type of solution. Yeah.
Okay. Just to explain for anybody who might not be familiar with the term AGV, it stands for Automated Guided Vehicle or Autonomous Guided Vehicle. Basically, these are driverless forklifts or vehicles of any description that shuttle around sites and move things and carry things around. The range and format is almost beyond definition now. So maybe that's a good segue for Paz to talk about some of the offerings. What are you seeing in the AGV market, and how are they coexisting on the workshop floor with traditional vehicles?
I'm not an AGV expert. We have a division of Dematic that in 2016 bought NDC. We acquired Australia's largest AGV company and now integrated them into our organisation. AGVs, just like you read every day about driverless vehicles in the world, driverless cars, driverless trucks, etc., within the industrial space, AGVs very much are going to hold that place where if you're running 2 shifts, you're going to get an ROI on AGVs that's extremely attractive. They don't take breaks, they don't get sick, etc., etc., etc. So it's almost a no-brainer for repetitive, constant movements in a warehouse. AGVs from point A to B transportation have held their place now for a number of years. What we're seeing now is things that as little as 5 years ago were unheard of. The ability of an AGV to take pallets in and out of racking, which was the domain of forks back then. So that technology is evolving every day, and the space that AGVs occupy from what was point A to B transportation to now in and out of racking, and then moving forward, truck loading, container loading, automatic truck and container loading, both rear and side loaded technology, that's evolving as we speak. So we're not far away from having AGVs have the capability of doing all the pallet movements in a manual warehouse, from receiving right through to dispatch.
Right. I guess at the moment, pretty much all of the big name forklift manufacturers have AGV lines of some description, either their own or in collaboration with an external party. And a lot of traditional machines that you can operate manually are now dual control, where they're autonomous and or driven. So, Philip, what's happening at Adaptalift? Are we soon going to see a driverless offering from your ranges, from CombiLift? And
Yeah, we currently do have driverless ranges that are operating, but
so these are just third-party control systems stuck onto a traditional forklift, or are they custom designed? Or
within CombiLift, no, it's been kept within house. So it has. CombiLift are, like, every year they invest 10% of their turnover into research and development. So I suppose the big drive at the minute for CombiLift is to look at automation across their entire range of forklifts. So yeah,
okay.
So it is available in-house at the minute within CombiLift.
So, Rob, are you working with AGV companies to ensure that your attachments are able to be controlled by the controlling systems of the AGVs, and what are the considerations there?
So Cascade already have a group of people working in our product development centre in Portland, Oregon, working on the compatibility of our current range of attachments to go onto AGVs. We've already got attachments fitted with paper roll clamps in CeMAT, New South Wales, working very successfully. Considerations for that are, really working with the combination of electronics and traditional hydraulics to make sure that they're as efficient as they can be to match the tech of the AGVs.
Okay. Jason, if I can ask you, I'm sure that nobody here is going to throw out all of their human-driven equipment and replace it with AGVs. What are some of the issues involved when you have a mixed fleet? So you've got some AGVs shuttling around, and then you've got some drivers. What are the kind of the safety concerns and the operational issues that one has to consider when you're running that kind of operation?
Yeah, sure. So I think with regards to the manually driven forklifts, what we need to consider is line of sight, and this is where we can assist with our sensor technology. So where the driver is sometimes prohibited from line of sight to visually see what they're reversing into or driving forward, we can provide some sensors to alert that driver. At the same time, with the AGVs are generally have got sensors on board to be able to pinpoint exact location, and that's communicated as well, so notification to the driver. So this is where you start to get the technology and connecting the manually driven forklift with the automated or the AGV. You're able to connect that and have notification both ways where those forklifts and AGVs are trafficking throughout the warehouse at any given time and in real time, which is the important part.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess the challenge must be for human operators who are used to another piece of equipment being operated at a human level, and comparing that with the algorithm that's built into the safety mechanism of the AGV. Are they predictable when they're on the floor and you're kind of driving towards one?
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, they are. Yeah, I mean we certainly see that the sensor technology itself is really foolproof. From a human aspect, if we're looking at a human safety, the devices are rated at a very high level. So certainly from a human perspective, they're really fail safe. The machine will actually stop if there's any errors or any problems. From an anti-collision perspective, they're very good in that aspect. But of course, there are things to be considered with racks that may be, or items or products that maybe fall in front of the AGV or forklift, so you can be prone to collision, but that's really in an unforeseen situation. So outside of that, in normal operation, they're very good.
I would just add to that a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, but it's far more likely that a human-driven forklift will run into an AGV than an AGV will run into something else.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Well put.
Right. Okay, so those of you who are gathered on the outside, we've reserved seats for you. If you'd like to come make your way in and join us for a nice cozy chat, please make yourselves, the offer is really available to you. So in the meanwhile, we've only got 20 minutes left for questions. I know that you're all bursting to ask them. So can we have the next question from the floor? Yep, over there.
Thank you. With the advent of, obviously, the growth of automation, but also the advent of RFID, I'm just wondering from the two gentlemen, from Paz and from Jason, is there any development work being done to solve the RFID metal issue? Because I would imagine the strength of being able to have readers inside your metal, if you like, within the automation piece that are 100% accurate would be much more powerful than trying to deal with what we have today.
I certainly agree with your premise, but we don't develop RFID within Dematic, so I can't comment on the technology.
Good question, and it is a challenge, yeah, especially with the technology itself. What I can say is there's an emerging technology which is it's a good segue into what's coming. UWB, which is a passive tag. I'm not sure if you're familiar with UWB, but what that talks about now, well, the technology is around a passive tag, so it has a battery on board. But what that provides us is with three, if you have specific readers in your warehouse area in 3 locations, you can actually pinpoint the pallet, and not only pinpoint it, but you can pinpoint it in a 3-dimensional view. So you not only get the vertical aspect, the horizontal aspect. So when we talk about AGVs, we can start to have AGVs driving up and down aisles and picking product in any location at any given time, which would start to eliminate some of these issues that we're talking about.
So can you elaborate on what the challenges are with RFID? Where does RFID not work?
Well, I think one of the big ones is where there's presence of water. Yeah, if you have presence of water, you're really challenged, and also metal. Yeah, I think they're the 2 challenges for the technology.
Right. And what are the costs of moving from what's now the mainstream standard to a new standard?
That's a good question. Yeah. In terms of cost, what are you referring to? The hardware, the systematic
the system
approach?
cost and
System cost. Okay, so if you're moving from a paper-based system to an RFID system, you'd be looking at, in simplistic terms, I mean, it depends on the scale of the operation.
This isn't a quote that anyone's going to hold you to.
No, I'm happy with that, yeah. So, if you're looking at a reader, and maybe if we do it in simplistic terms because you need to understand the scope of the project, but a reader, you're buying a reader now, or selling a reader now for around that $1,500 to $2,000. And then tags, tags have decreased significantly over time. They're very low priced, and it depends on the tag that you're using, but they can range really from, cents to hundreds of dollars.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess this raises an interesting point that we're pretty much at a crossroads at many levels. We're seeing new technology coming in, replacing old technology, but huge investments have already been made in existing racking and existing aisles and existing hardware. So what's the way forward? Is it to throw everything out and start again, or to get systems to coexist and to semi-automate? Or so, Paz, if you look at the challenges that are coming through your door from clients, what are the solutions? Is it some kind of coexistence, or is it start planning for the obsolescence of current technology?
That's a really good question as well, because it really depends on the maturity level of our customer and the organisation. And I think that understanding where you're at in your journey as a distribution operation is really important. There's a multitude of organisations out there that aren't ready for full automation, and would actually be a mistake to make the giant leap into that sort of level of robotics and automation. So you have to put your business on a journey, and that may mean starting with semi-levels of automation, interleaving technology, mechanisation with some human interaction, with some human pickers, overlaid with some technology and smart software. That could be an entry level. And then the higher levels of automation will depend on the maturity level of the organisation, their experience with automation and technology, and scale. It really simply is that some businesses can't afford it, and that's a reality. So I think management teams within my customers, ranging from a small e-com startup right through to a major Australian retailer, they have to take a good look at what they're doing, who they are, and what makes sense for their business. And obviously, talking to the industry consultants and talking to Dematic, if I can put a sales plug in, will help you navigate through that.
No, you can't put a sales plug in, sorry. We can't permit that at all.
I just did.
Oh dear, okay. So, Jason, I guess for the likes of Amazon, who's starting afresh, great technology they can tap into, but for the rest of us, what's the path forward? How do we embrace the technology, afford to embrace the technology, and not throw away everything that we've spent the last 50 years developing?
Yeah, this is a very good question around Industry 4 digitalisation. I think it's also relevant not only to warehousing but also automation and various other sectors in the industries that we work in, is really to understand, I think, it is a journey. It's been talked about. If we're going to move towards that, it's a journey, and you need to work through some steps. So what we're finding is the first step before you even think about investment is to really understand what is the process, and we have terminology like cradle to grave. So what is the process of the supply chain? And what we're finding is a lot of customers don't really have a solid understanding of what their processes are for the supply chain from A to Z. So the real message there is document your process first, have your staff engaged, work out what you're actually doing from A to Z, and once you do that, then look to apply some lean thinking to that. And there's been some presentations around some models to use. Once you've done that, then have a look at the digitalisation aspect and how automation can assist you in the goals that you want to achieve. But more importantly, as you're working through that, individual companies have different constraints and they're working within different financial matters. So you need to really sit down and think to yourself and work through at a strategic level what it is you want to achieve from going to the automation or working towards the automation path of Industry 4 or digitalisation.
Okay. Philip, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, Jason's touched on a good few points, and when clients come to us for, I always say CombiLift are a solutions provider. We don't sell standard forklifts day on day, but Jason's touched on cost and bringing your client on a journey. Often I could talk to a client for a year and a half, 2 years about an optimized solution for their facility, but they have to be ready to embrace that change, and they got to bring themselves on a journey and bring their staff with it, because we cannot, they just can't shut down their business, gut out a whole warehouse or reduce aisles by, say, from 3 meters to 1.8. Without affecting their business. So they got to plan it months on months.
Right.
Yeah.
And Rob, should people be buying attachments for their current fleet or holding on to what they've got and waiting for the next big thing?
Well, I think in materials handling there is no one size fits all solution. I think the common thread with all of us is that we're all there to help provide solutions for your business. So consult. Let us help you come up with the right solution, whether that's got to be a particularly specialised engineered solution, whether there is something off the shelf. That's what we're here to do. And I don't see a day that we won't have pallets. I don't see a day we won't have forklifts. I think they're all there, and we have to coexist.
Okay. Well, we've already had 3 times the level of audience participation of any other session. So let's see if we're on a streak here. We have probably time for our second last question from the floor. Well, we have time for one more question. Just one more question. No? Oh, there is a question. The streak continues.
Thank you. My question is, if you're moving warehouses, how long is the planning to implementation stage to invest, to create an automated or somewhat partially automated system?
So is this from an existing structure to a new one or completely
Yes, existing
new?
to a new one.
Okay, so there's the challenge, guys. How quickly can we do this?
I might take that one. It's really variable. I've got examples of where I've spoken to customers for 4 to 5 years. It's taken that long. And I've got some examples where it happens within 12 months. I think you need to look at the scale of your business, talk to materials handling providers, talk to forklift companies, talk to a whole bunch of people early. Engage early. That's absolutely, Rob. Engage as early as possible, collaborate, understand what your end game is, and then gather the input to what the journey is to get to that end game, and that then will map out how long it's going to take. But it's not quick, and it shouldn't be. The point is that you need to give yourself a lot of time to get it right before you start bending metal, before you start buying rack, before you start buying forklift trucks. Get it all right beforehand, because it's too late when you've made those decisions. That's my advice.
Okay. Jason, if we can try and make it a little more specific, what is the quickest you've seen an implementation?
In terms of a fully automated warehouse?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be difficult for me to answer that question. I'd probably have to go back to Paz for that one. Yeah.
A new warehouse,
Yeah.
including the building time, would be between 12 and 14 months.
Okay.
A fully automated DC can take 3 to 4 years.
Okay. All right. Well, talking about time spans, we seem to be out of time, so maybe we'll just get everybody on the panel to end with one piece of advice. So, how do we embrace technology and get an ROI that we can present to our organizations? Philip, maybe you can start.
I think the guys have touched on it. Like, you plan it early. Do your research, and talk to the likes of us guys at the start, and let us bring you on that journey. I always say to people, like, it's a lot easier to do something on a piece of paper than it is once a set of racks are installed in a warehouse. So get in early.
Jason?
Yeah, so for me it would be to have that strategic discussion within your organisation of where you want to be in 5 years' time, and even workshop that together, come up with an outcome, and then as Rob mentioned, engage with the industry, with the suppliers, talk to companies like SICK, and utilise their expertise or our expertise to be able to assist you in achieving your objective or your 5-year plan. Yeah.
Okay. Paz?
I wouldn't add any more to what Philip and Jason have said. Engage early, but really get the buy-in from your organisation as early as possible, right up to the board CEO. If they're not part of the journey from the beginning, you're going to hit them later, and it's too late.
Okay. And Rob?
Stick with industry leaders. They've become industry leaders for the reason that they tend to get it right. Our service is basically free to come and help you out, so that's about it.
Okay. And my advice would be read Forklift Action News. There's a card on your chair. If you're not already a subscriber, please do it. It's totally free. Totally free. So, folks, you've been fabulously interactive, even if a bit distant. But thank you for being with us, and please join me in thanking Philip, Jason, Paz, and Rob.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Thank you.
Thanks very much, guys. We're just going to really quickly reset the stage, and then we'll introduce our next speaker from Toll Global Logistics.